So if you've been paying attention to the wellness space lately, you've probably heard about earthing or grounding. The concept is pretty simple, but honestly, it's really fascinating. You physically connect with the earth to discharge static electricity from your body and absorb free electrons. And to do this indoors, people use earthing mats. But here is where it gets a little complicated. The materials used to make these mats vary wildly, and the marketing, well, it can be incredibly confusing. Today, we're diving into an in-depth explainer to fact-check earthing mat materials. We are going to completely strip away the marketing jargon and look straight at the hard science, the actual conductivity data and the safety records. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's start with a bit of a mystery. In certain domestic markets, you're going to see graphene constantly advertised as this absolute dream material. It gets incredibly hyped up, heavily marketed, and pushed as the next big evolution in grounding technology. Yet, if you look over at the United States, which is essentially the birthplace and easily the most mature market for earthing products, graphene is almost completely ignored. It's practically non-existent in their premium product lines. So you have to ask yourself, why? Why would a highly advanced market completely reject a so-called dream material?
There is a really stark contrast here. On one hand, you've got domestic markets aggressively pushing graphene, but on the other hand, the U.S. market remains fiercely loyal to premium silver fiber and medical-grade stainless steel, with standard carbon serving as an entry-level option. And the reason for this massive divide? It all comes down to consumer behavior. You see, U.S. consumers don't just blindly trust the marketing. They actually go out, buy multimeters, and physically measure the conductivity of their mats at home to verify the results themselves. Flashy marketing terms simply do not survive there if the product doesn't actually perform in the real world.
Section 1. The reality of conductivity and physical differences. Let's look under the hood and examine the actual physical makeup of these materials.
The physical difference in how these mats are constructed is actually staggering. When you invest in a silver fiber mat, you're getting 99.9% pure silver. It's a highly conductive precious metal directly woven right into the fabric itself. Because of this, it literally just feels like soft, normal bedding. Graphene, though? Well, theoretically, pure graphene is a great conductor, but the reality of manufacturing is a whole different story. Real-world graphene mats use a low-cost graphene powder. This powder is then mixed into rubber or polyurethane plastic or just painted on as a thin coating. The core problem, and it's a big one, is that rubber and plastic are insulators, so the conductive particles are literally trapped inside an insulating resin.
Let's look at the real-world impact of that on electrical conductivity, which is measured in ohms. Now, lower numbers are better here because that means there's less resistance to the electrical flow. Silver fiber is just incredible, measuring right between 0 and 10 ohms. That gives you instant synchronization with the earth through direct metal conduction. Stainless steel is right behind it at roughly 10 to 100 ohms. Carbon fiber drops off to what we call standard levels, sitting between 1,000 and 10,000 ohms because the electrons literally have to jump between carbon particles. But look at what happens when we get down to graphene.
Over 100,000 ohms. I mean, wow. Because those tiny graphene particles are separated by all that insulating plastic and rubber we just talked about, you get what scientists call discontinuous particle conduction. The flow of free electrons is severely blocked. From a strictly scientific perspective, a resistance number this massive means the mat is barely even functioning as an earthing device when you compare it to something like pure silver. And this massive lack of efficiency is exactly why the informed U.S. market rejects it. When a consumer touches a multimeter to a silver mat, boom, they get an immediate, highly conductive reading. But when they test a graphene mat, they hit a massive wall of resistance. Combine that dismal performance with the fact that rubberized graphene mats often feel super stiff, honestly, kind of like sleeping on cold vinyl flooring instead of cozy bedding, and you can totally see why they fail to gain any traction with educated buyers.
Section 2. The safety controversy of nanoparticles. So conductivity is really only half the story. Let's look at an even more critical issue: human safety.
Remember, these are products you're sleeping on for 8 hours a night with direct, prolonged contact to your bare skin. The source material highlights a very real academic concern regarding nanographene toxicity. Because the graphene in these products is essentially just a powder coating or a mixed-in resin, regular friction, like you just tossing and turning at night, or the agitation of your washing machine can cause these microscopic nanoparticles to shed. And recent studies are throwing up major red flags about what happens when these shed particles penetrate human skin or get inhaled. They're pointing to potential risks of cytotoxicity, which is really just a scientific way of saying it's toxic to your cells, and systemic inflammation. Advanced markets are, understandably, incredibly sensitive to the idea of unproven nanomaterials making direct, nightly contact with bare skin.
Now contrast that unproven risk with the rock-solid safety profiles of the preferred metals.
Stainless steel is entirely biocompatible. I mean, this is the exact same material used to make internal medical devices and surgical tools. It is incredibly safe. Silver fiber is a natural material that actually brings its own built-in antibacterial properties to the table, keeping your bed highly hygienic. But the absolute most important takeaway here, because both of these use continuous, solidly woven metal threads, there is literally zero risk of particle shedding. You are not going to be inhaling microscopic metal dust while you try to get a good night's sleep.
Section 3, Washing and Semi-Permanent Durability. Let's get practical for a minute and talk about real-world maintenance.
An earthing mat is, at the end of the day, a piece of bedding. You sweat on it, dead skin cells fall on it, it's eventually going to need a wash. And how these materials handle the washing machine dictates their true lifespan. Once again, we see a huge divide. Woven metals, like stainless steel and silver, hold on to their stable conductivity wash after wash. Stainless steel in particular is an absolute tank. It's practically a semi-permanent investment that won't even discolor over time. But cheap graphene coatings? They are highly vulnerable. Repeated washing literally just peels the coating away. And the second that layer is compromised, the mat's already poor earthing function is completely and rapidly destroyed. Now, full disclosure, if you do choose the premium option, silver, you absolutely must treat it like the precious metal it is. Following some strict washing rules is absolutely crucial to prevent oxidation. Step 1. Neutral detergent only. Oxygen or chlorine-based bleaches and fabric softeners, they will instantly destroy the silver coating. Don't use them. Step 2. Keep the water cold or lukewarm, definitely under 30 degrees Celsius, because high heat is going to cause peeling. Step 3. Always throw it in a wash net and run your machine on the wool or delicate cycle. Honestly, washing it every 2 to 4 weeks is plenty. And step 4, no machine dryers. Dry it naturally in the shade, because direct sunlight actually speeds up the oxidation of silver.
Beyond the laundry room, your daily routine matters just as much. Here's a tip that actually surprises a lot of people. Avoid slathering on thick lotions, body oils, or heavy hair products right before you get into bed. Why? Because they literally create a physical insulating film right over the metal fibers, actively blocking the grounding effect. If you absolutely must use them, just place a thin cotton sheet over the mat. The natural moisture from your body will still allow the grounding to work right through the fabric. Also, human sweat contains salt, and salt is naturally corrosive to metal, so wiping the mat down frequently during the hot summer months is a must. Finally, take a page out of the U.S. Consumer Playbook. Grab a multimeter every 6 to 12 months just to ensure your mat is still hitting those optimal conductivity levels. Oh, and if you do happen to opt for carbon or graphene, just know that machine washing is generally completely discouraged to prevent that rapid peeling we talked about earlier. Carbon mats, for instance, are huge in European hospitals, specifically because they can just be quickly wiped down with a cloth and don't require traditional laundering at all.
Section 4. The optimal material for you. We've covered the physics, we've looked at the safety data, and we know the maintenance realities. Let's bring it all together.
We find ourselves back at our initial mystery. Why does the most advanced earthing market on the planet ignore graphene? Well, the verdict is pretty clear. Despite all those flashy, buzzword-heavy marketing campaigns, the raw data shows us that graphene mats rely on unproven, low-grade construction. The conductivity is, quite frankly, incredibly poor because of the insulating resins used to make them. There are highly valid, scientifically backed concerns regarding nanoparticle shedding and potential toxicity. And on top of all that, their lifespan is severely compromised the minute you try to wash them.
So instead of chasing hype, informed consumers focus their attention on materials with decades of proven, measurable efficacy. If you are looking for absolute peak performance, instant electrical synchronization, and the added bonus of natural antibacterial properties, silver fiber is widely considered your most effective investment, as long as you're willing to wash it with care. If you want a mat that's basically indestructible, offers flawless medical-grade safety, requires almost zero maintenance, and can easily survive a standard washing machine, stainless steel is definitely your most reliable choice. And carbon? It remains a perfectly reasonable economic entry-level option, particularly for environments like hospitals where throwing it in a washing machine isn't really necessary.
Look, at the end of the day, earthing is all about establishing a direct, physical, highly conductive connection to the earth to support your overall health. It shouldn't be a gamble on unproven materials trapped in plastic. So I want to leave you with this final thought. When you lay down to go to sleep tonight, is the mat touching your skin actually providing real, scientifically verifiable earthing, or is it just doing marketing? It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for exploring the science with us today, and as always, keep asking the right questions.